How often do you find yourself using an offering in Dead by Daylight? Whether it be a simple brown offering to give you a small boost to your blood points, or a map offering to potentially get an advantage on your next match. Now if you had to pick, which offering do you think just isn't worth running in any situation? Would it happen to be the luck offerings? Maybe the fog adjustments just don't do enough for you. My pick would definitely be the Shroud of Binding. Now do keep in mind, this is all just my opinion, but please just hear me out. The Shroud of Binding is a very rare survivor offering that spawns all survivors together. That doesn't sound so bad, right? Now you and your buddies can all work on a generator to complete it even faster than you would alone. Wrong. First things first, you don't even need to use this offering to spawn with all your teammates. Most of the time the game will spawn them just behind an obstacle a few feet away from you, or just straight up right in front of you. I can't count how many times I've spawned and spotted my entire team within the first 10 seconds of the match, without a Shroud offering. But that isn't the only problem. Now, there are times where that isn't the case. Maybe one or two of your teammates spawn on the opposite side of the map, and now you can't get that sweet early prove thyself value. Believe it or not, this could actually be a better turnout for your team. The time it takes to repair a generator alone is 90 seconds, while with all 4 survivors is 40. 28 seconds with prove thyself for those that are curious. Quite the difference, huh? So why would spawning away from each other be better than spawning with each other? There are many reasons. To list a few, not every generator is available to 4 people, so you might not get what you were hoping for. A generator could be blocked by Corrupt Intervention, a pretty popular killer perk, so you would all need to split up and look for a free generator despite the offering. Or you could all waste time looking for a generator together. That's how you die! The biggest reason I believe this offering is the worst in the game though, is for the sheer fact that it sets you back more than it helps you out, despite being a tool to give survivors a small edge against the killers. When a game starts, the first thing a killer does is patrol the generators. They aren't just going to sit around and play with the crows, they are going to look for a survivor to offer to the sky crab. Now if you're going against a setup killer, such as a hag or trapper, that's a different story, as finishing gens as fast as possible against them is optimal. However, having someone distract or interrupt their setups can be considered just as good, maybe even better in the long run, due to their lack of resources. We also have to take into account that these are just 2 killers of the 31 that are setup based, as of version 6.6.1, and they aren't exactly the most played characters in the game. If a good killer doesn't waste time with searching, they will find you and your friends before you can even finish that generator. Now let's think about the situation. It's the start of the game, you and your friends got lucky and found a 4-man generator. You all get interrupted by the killer while the gen is well over halfway done. The positive is, you have a generator that is just about completed. Congratulations! Now the negative. You have 4 people running around doing nothing and possibly losing multiple health states. Depending on who the killer is, how fast the killer can catch a survivor, and the types of perks they're running, that generator could end up being a lost cause. Now let's think about it with the survivors spreading out and working on different gens. Chances are, one of them will get found pretty early on. A chase will ensue, but the difference between this and the 4-man gen situation is that only one person isn't occupied with a generator. But even then, it isn't a terrible position to be in, as this one person is keeping the killer occupied while the others work. Worst case scenario is that one person leads the killer to someone else's gen, and even that isn't as bad as the 4-man gen situation, because you'll still have 2 others working on generators. So instead of having a single generator that's near completion and nobody doing a thing, you could have 2 or 3 gens getting a good amount of progress, albeit for a lengthier time, but the killer only has themselves to rely on. They can't be in 2 places at once. Well, unless they're a decent nurse, then you're pretty much fucked. It's better to take advantage of your numbers instead of reducing it to one single generator. And this isn't even taking into account killers, perks, or add-ons that get an advantage or disrupt survivors for grouping up. You have Discordance, a perk that'll notify the killer if 2 or more survivors work on a single generator. Lethal Pursuer, which will just lead the killer straight to everyone and is very commonly played. The Legion, a killer that could injure everyone and potentially get a fast down. The Plague with her Sickness, Michael with his Stalk, killers with a good map pressure such as Nurse or Blight. The list goes on. By equipping the Shroud of Binding, you're basically doing the killer a favor when it comes to locating and disrupting survivors. Heck, one could argue that the Shroud of Separation could be just as bad for killers in some situations for the opposite reasons I listed earlier. In my honest opinion, they should swap or make both shrouds available to both the killers and survivors. The killers being able to get a guaranteed group up could really benefit some of them, as I previously mentioned, and survivors being able to spread out immediately into the match could be more useful for them than it would killers in most situations. But hey, that's just my opinion. What do you think is the worst offering in the game? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Later.